This lady had a question.
I wanted to know how that gentleman over there started finding bodies.
Great, let's ask him. Frank, how'd you start finding bodies?
I really started when I was 3 years old. And, and
stand up, please.
huh?
Please stand up so we can hear you.
Stand up.
Thank you.
You want the microphone, Frank?
I don't think I need it, but
3 years old.
I used to sing for a living, so I project my voice out at home. Yeah, when I was 3 years old, I was playing in a sandbox. My mother was putting up laundry, and all of a sudden I got a vision, and I saw my grandfather holding his chest falling down the stairs. I ran over to my mother. Whatever a 3-year-old says, she told me to get back in the box. So when I got back in the sandbox, his body was right there, his spirit. After that, well, about an hour later, my mother told me that my grandmother called, and they found him at the bottom of the stairs. He had passed. My grandfather was quite a character, and he was into a lot of different things. One thing he played violin, and he had an orchestra on the radio, and my mother used to sing. And there was a contest, and my mother came in 32, and Hootie Valley came in #1. I believe that was 1930. But after that, people, I used to see faces around my crib. People were talking. I finally told my grandfather, tell him to go away. I like to sleep. I wasn't scared of him. I mean, it wasn't like the Sixth Sense when somebody came in with a hatchet in their head or something looking for, you know. So I had quite a bit of experiences. I've always had dreams of things coming up, deja vu experiences. Some personal things was another grandfather died. My father's father died. I was in the Navy at the time, and I was stuck on the ship for the weekend. And I got a letter from my mother, which was, the script was a little messy. And I thought my grandmother died. And I went up into this little room to practice my guitar. And there was a little bit of a light in there. And once you shut the door, it was fairly dark, but I could read the music. And in the corner, there was a light, and it came towards me, and it went through me. And I felt cold, and I started to sweat. The light went back, and it was the face of my grandfather that just passed. And silently, he told me my father would die in 10 years. So 10 years later, my father had been going through a lot. And he was still a young man, he was only 50. And he passed. 2010, I was in my office, I just closed my eyes, and I saw my father's face. And it was bright red, and there was a little black around it. And he said, I was going to die on my birthday. Now this was January, I'm a March 4th. So the next day the doctor's been telling me I'm boring. So the next day I go to the doctor and I wind up with a quadruple bypass. And I didn't die, obviously. At least I don't think so. So ask my wife that. But progressively over the years, I've had experiences with spirits coming to me. When I was in a show group going to Vegas, I was up in Carbondale, Pennsylvania, and we were rehearsing a new show. Was really tired. I come back to this whole old hotel. The third floor was veterans. So somebody might be passing away every couple weeks or not. And I was on the second floor. When you walk in the room, it was a small room. The bed was perpendicular. There was a door that was locked by the bed and a door on this side. So there was one of those glasses that came, the window came down from the ceiling to the floor. And it was pitch dark. I just got into bed. I was really exhausted. We did about 12 hours of rehearsal. I was in the fetus position. I almost could feel the stages of sleep. Boom, boom, boom. And then I started to feel somebody kneeling on my bed, coming towards me. And I'm trying to wake myself up. And then they're pushing me down into the pillow. So finally I couldn't breathe and I just swept my arm around. And of course there was nobody there. So I packed my suitcase up. I go down to the lobby and there's this fella and he's going like, and I said, listen, I don't like my room. He said, what room is that? The fourth, number 4. He says, oh, that room. So then he put me in another room which was really suspicious. We had the closed up fireplace and everything else, just ready for something to happen. I've done hundreds of cases. I started up in Massachusetts. I met a guy that, Detective Jim Mills, he did the Boston Strangler case, he did the Brinks robbery. He had just retired. I was singing in the club. I played guitar and I was singing, doing a single, and he had come in, and we became real good friends. And he said that this guy didn't do it, definitely didn't do it. So we were going together. He suspected it's somebody else, and we started. I got involved with some other things. A community actually called me in to check on somebody that whose family is very famous for a product. I don't like to mention names, but there was 3 murders that might have been connected to this reverend in there. He did a lot of suspicious stuff. Anyway, I interviewed people, and I actually found out who actually did it, and it was him. They never really solved the case. It was a big case in Massachusetts. I did ghost busting up in, I was the ghost buster up in New England. So I did plenty of, I went up to Maine, in Bangor, Maine, and I was hired by a group to just to go through houses. And I went through the houses and I identified different people that lived there, a couple hundred years old. I actually was involved with a murder case. A lady was murdered, an older lady, and I did it over the phone with the police chief because they were skeptical, you know, said, up here we don't, few weird things, but I don't like to talk to weird people. So,
Frank, I want to tell a story about you.
But anyway, it was I said it's like 2 people, but I see that a tall guy with long blonde hair, but he got breasts of a woman. And I get the name Samantha. So a few days later, they caught the guy. He did some work for this woman, and he killed her to get money to have a sex change. And he went back up to Canada, had the sex change, but just the breast. And he'd come back to get more money, figured there was more money there, but they had found her. So they caught him. He called himself Samantha, and he was going crazy because they were going to put him in a man's prison. And of course, we know that the guys were waiting for that.
Thank you.